This, what I'm talking about today, is called an unknown offense. An unknown offense is when you're not really aware that a person is doing you wrong, but they are. You're not aware of the attack because of clever devices and techniques that are being used. What I'm going to recall to you is something that woke me up this morning. Um, and what it was, I was thinking about when in Egypt, um, Pharaoh's son rose to power, and he sat up there and he said, "We must oppress the Jews. They have become strong. They have become wiser than us. They constantly multiply. Look at their land that we have put them on. We have to oppress them." Or when an army comes, they would rise up against us and join with the army or whatever army that comes. When I thought about this, um, sitting down just thinking about the offense itself and thinking about the thought process of the Egyptian, I had to question a lot of different things because back then, when a kingdom such as the Egyptian kingdom was attacked, this had to be a mighty army. It had to be a big, big army. But then when you think about it as well, as a Jew, I have my land, I have my family here, and there is no guarantee of alignment. So during this process, I started to think to myself, how many offenses did the Egyptians commit against the Jews before taking them into slavery or before they entered into that process without them being conscious or aware that these offenses was taking place? How many happened before that time? That was pretty much a warning that this is where it was leading God's people to. It had to be multiple offenses, especially for them to feel intimidated by the Jews. They had to have already been committing certain sins against God people before the time of them saying, okay, now we're going to take this all the way into slavery. A perfect example, I have been reading a book I picked up from the Catholic Church right here in Palm Beach. And the book was talking about the sexual assaults on the children in the church and how it took place, um, and how this group within the Catholic Church rose to power and turned around. As they rose to power, they started to abuse the children, the women, and the men that were coming to the house of God to be cleansed and to be saved and to somewhat offer themselves up to God in servitude. They turned around, and it was clever because the only way that you could get a position as an altar child, whether for a girl or for a boy, would be for you to actually be cleared through the pedophiles and the people that were actually doing this against God's people. And this gentleman, he talks about the hurt that he felt and the anger that he felt because he's like, I'm a Catholic, I'm not a child molester, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm a believer, I try to believe in God, and I'm hurt because people looking at me now that I have a position of similar status, like I'm the same thing, and even for me, I endured that as well, where because of the offenses of coworkers and people around me when I was in law enforcement, because of their offenses, I'm observed that's the same thing. Even when I don't side with the person that's doing the offense, I'm considered the same thing because maybe I'm not doing what you want me to do or in the manner that you want me to do, but I'm not the same thing. So when I started thinking about it and started thinking about the offenses that pretty much takes place as individual groups, secret organizations, because not all organizations are for the people, I would say, or not all groups of people that represent our state and our country are really for us. There are a group that isn't, and they do many offenses against people. We may not see them because we can't really see the isolated events. It may be an isolated event with a family, and that family doesn't speak out, or they don't have the words to vocalize what is actually taking place and the offenses that are taking place, or they're just out of it. They're in this daze where they cannot really tell what's really taking place, but it is taking place. Um, However, though, we have to be aware that this was the first beginning stages as they called themselves rising to a hierarchy or rising above the people, and some of them rise was very rapid and quick. When I say it's like how can I put it, the same thing that you would read in this book. I really want you guys to know the name of the book. The name of the book is A Letter to a Suffering Church. It's by Bishop Robert Barron. He's talking about things that are taking place in the Catholic Church. I'm not Catholic, but at the same time, he talks about these things that was bothering them during that time and stuff like that. But I do tend to fellowship with diverse religious beliefs and religious faiths for a reason, because I'm a true believer that God has blessed um, many religions with the truth to uh, and many religions carry the truth, and some of it holds the truth. So we have to fellowship and communicate with different religions in order to get the complete truth about a lot of things that are taking place. It may Some people may feel against this, but I do remember God saying He had several different churches, and I do remember the disciples writing letters to these different churches and stuff like that. And I don't believe that these churches was necessarily different, but had a different religious belief. So for me, I do fellowship with different people to get a complete understanding of a lot of different things. But like I was saying, the thought process today is how many offenses actually take place before disaster hits. Even with us in our everyday life, we may be being attacked, we may be under all out attack and not even know it, because the attack has became somewhat the norm for us. It's normal for the police to come pick us up and take us out of our house or whatever the case may be. Um, and usually most of them have a warrant, so I don't see why they wouldn't have a warrant if they're taking a person. Sometimes we don't even do this with our neighbors, but we need to start now checking and say, hey, if you see your neighbor in handcuffs, excuse me, officer, why is he in handcuffs? Can you explain that to me? Can you tell me why he's in handcuffs? Because there's so much going on. to protect the person next to you, because although it's happened to the person next to you, it won't be long before it ends up at your doorstep. So we actually have to be careful. But the thought process I really want you guys to get: what took place with the Egyptians that made them feel like the person would side with another party over them? How many offenses did they do, or what had been done to make them feel that way?